If you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now, along with the bell icon so you can be notified whenever a new video is posted. And if you're already subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you. And of course, be sure to give the video a like as well as share it on your social media. The white supremacists hate that. And now, the Sunday address. Before we get into the heart of this evening address about the SNAP-ocalypse, this is something that I feel that I need to go ahead and address right off the bat. I have zero doubt that I'm going to regret this, but there's something that I feel needs to be clarified. Ordinarily, there's some people I see taking shots at Cardi B who would normally be kissing her hairy, musty behind, and let me be the first to say that if she has one more facial surgery, she could be Lisa Rinna's stunt double. Now, I have to say this for the folks who don't listen so well. You guys know after 17 plus years that I have unbridled contempt for people like Cardi B. In fact, I have unbridled contempt for her personally. I have no reason to say anything that could even remotely be construed or misconstrued as anything other than an insult. So why am I starting this evening's address off with talking about this recent Cardi B controversy? Because there seems to be some folks who are going out of their way to make up something that, believe it or not, she didn't actually say. There's people who are passing around only about 1/3 of her little video rant, and they're attempting to manufacture context instead of letting the video speak for itself. There's people who have been saying that Cardi B's attacking her own fans. Well, as far as I'm concerned, if you're a fan of Cardi B, you deserve it. But I couldn't help but notice that the main ones spreading that line were trash like Steven Crowder and Tommy Lauren. And that phrase in particular has been making the rounds with a lot of folks who have been repeating it, particularly people who would be right-wing aligned, but also a lot of other folks who aren't. And they're just saying Cardi B is saying that her fans are going to have to eat raccoons for Thanksgiving. Cardi B is telling her fans, y'all need to eat raccoons for Thanksgiving. That's the phrase that I've seen kicked around quite a bit. But most of you haven't seen the complete remarks that she made. In fact, a lot of you folks haven't seen the video at all. And the ones who did only saw like about 10 or 15 seconds of it. You saw these selectively, and I would say deceptively edited clips that only take the last part of her remarks, and then they say she was talking about her fans. Now, in the video, she specified exactly who it was that she was talking about. And you tell me, does she say anywhere that she's talking about her fans?
Remember all them jobs that he was saying the immigrants was having? Now they're saying, well, the immigrants' job is gone. Get to work, just because the immigrants are gone don't mean that we're going to give you this free food. Y'all get to working. Yeah. So while y'all was happy and all that shit, and I hope white people is watching me. Well, not just all white people. I'm not going to put everything, but there's a lot of white Americans, a certain type of white Americans that like, they are so, you know, they country, they eat raccoons and shit, all type of shit. They live in the Appalachian mountains and shit like that. And these are the type of people, because y'all we live in certain ghettos, we live in certain poverties, but then there's certain poverties that white folks live in. They live in trailers, they live in mountains, they eat squirrels and shit. And those are the type of white Americans that they live in towns that like they used to like do coils and shit, like coal, whatever. And now they're out of jobs and all that shit. And instead of blaming America and technology for the poverty that they're going through, they blame it on the immigrants. And these are the type of people that I want y'all to watch this live, because y'all thought that immigrants and this and that, and we gotta go for Donald Trump. Y'all thought that he was gonna be your hero. He don't like y'all. Yo, poor, you're poor. He don't like you. He don't like you. He don't give a if you black, white, Asian, Spanish. If you poor, he don't like you. He ain't for you. Okay? He ain't for you. And now, ain't no food stamps. Y'all gonna have to hunt raccoons and shit for Thanksgiving and eat beans and shit.
Alright, see, I had watched the video, and now so have you. She clearly said she was talking about white people, and even then she made it clear she specifically was talking about those who voted for Trump. She said she was talking about the white people living in places like Appalachia or Appalachia, whatever the hell she said. Last time I checked, Cardi B doesn't have too many fans from Appalachia or coal country. Though the Tommy Laurens and the Steven Crowders and other right-wing nuts online, these are the main people who they like to say that they're speaking for and claiming they're speaking on behalf of when they talk about small-town America, or they talk about outside the large cities, outside the urban, read black areas. That's who they're talking about, Appalachia, etc., what they try to call the heart of the country. Whatever. But the point is, that's who Cardi B was talking about. Now, why would anyone want to deliberately go ahead and say she was talking about her fans? Sure, a large number of her fans are going to be affected by the SNAP and EBT suspended payments, but everyone's going to. Why lie, though, and say she was talking about her fans? I recognize these kind of coordinated message campaigns, and this one smelled like ops to me from the jump, even before I saw the video. Smelled like someone's trying to make a big deal out of a nothing burger because they need to change the headlines. Polling for the midterm elections next year has already started in earnest, and those numbers are already going sour ahead of time for the orange man. Perhaps for the first couple of weeks it looked like they could put the spin on the Democrats, but the reality happened to be that as people's benefits and their entitlements didn't get paid out, they're looking at the Republicans saying you guys are in charge, so you have to have some sort of influence over this, right? This is not the kind of baggage that the GOP wants to drag into next year's elections. So if you're one of these online folks who lives on the internet, what comes to your empty head? Let's see if we can change the headlines. How do you do that? By manufacturing one. And while people are getting upset about something that didn't actually happen, the white powers that be get to slither off while everybody else is bickering amongst themselves. Now, I don't think I need to tell anybody that I'm not a Cardi B fan and I'm not sticking up for her. What I'm saying is, just be aware that when it comes to these political connivers on the white left and the white right, they understand full well that somebody like a Cardi B can be a useful idiot for them. She's the kind of person who can be a shiny object that they can dangle in front of people and say, look what she said, and there'll be people who actually run with it, whether she said it or not. And their whole goal was to get attention and heat off of themselves. That said, I can also understand why it is they had problems with what she said. She was talking about white people who voted for Trump. Yeah, they love to go ahead and get that one off the headlines. People from the dominant society have no reason to be on public assistance to begin with. 500 plus years, this country has been nothing but the world's largest giveaway scheme for people who are classified as white. 500 years of goodies, giveaways, and most of all, guarantees that are simply handed to someone by benefit of the fact that they exist. So that being the case, if you got all of these white skin privileges, all of this white privilege, all of these economic giveaways, what the heck do you need public assistance for? And on top of that, if the Tommy Laurens and the Steven Crowders and others are upset at the idea that a lot of the folks who they claim to speak for up in coal country and Appalachia, etc., are going to be winding up having to, as Cardi B puts it, eating raccoons and beans and such for Thanksgiving, well, the question is, why the hell hasn't the GOP done anything for these people in the last 150 years? See, this is what happens when people decide that they're going to be voting for a political party, even though that party hasn't actually done anything for you. And what you teach that political party is that they don't have to do anything for you. As long as they go ahead and give you some psychic benefits, particularly attacking black people, as long as they make you feel like you're superior to them, then that's all you need to vote for them. And when that happens, that becomes habit forming. After a while, not only do they not bring you anything, they have contempt for the idea that they should. So, although I don't like the messenger, the message is nonetheless valid. You got those folk running around saying, I voted for this. Yes. And now when you got all of those poor folks, uneducated white folks in Appalachia who are seeing their public benefits that they depend on cut, this is what you voted for. White Americans are the majority of those on public assistance in the U.S., though you wouldn't know it by the white media's coverage. So when these SNAP and EBT cuts came down, a lot of them were finding themselves going hungry. And a lot of them are finding themselves having to go to food pantries and other forms of charity. That matters because one of the myths that's been created in America is that basically those in the dominant society, they're not down and out. That's one of the things that the white media understands. You gotta be covetous about covering their image a certain way. These programs weren't created to help black people. They were created to help white, uneducated people without jobs who lived in impoverished areas. And whatever pressure there is to resume these benefits programs is going to come from them. The white media's job, however, is propaganda, so they're going to do everything they can not to show white people down and out. As the white recipients make more noise, expect the white media to be putting Bushika and her kids in front of the cameras instead, to deliberately create the misimpression that it's black people who are the ones who are making the most noise about this. That's also a problem for the white left. Because you got a bunch of them who are on TV and printing on websites pushing the lie that, we got to resume these programs to help the black community. Why, it's the black community who's the most reliant on these programs. See, they did as much as the Republicans to make black people the face of these things. Never mind the fact that white women are the majority of the people using it. And that's the reason why you got these folk who saw Cardi B, a rapper who they don't listen to and don't care about. She's sitting here saying all of these white folks up in Appalachia who voted for Trump and this is what you get. And that's why they responded with, oh, she's talking about her fans. See, it doesn't matter if it's the white left or the white right. They both use the exact same false narratives. That's the point of this Sunday address. We got to understand the times may change, but these people don't. That's the reason why, whether it be the Great Depression, the Great Recession of '89, the 2008 economic crash, or this, they have to keep learning the same lesson over and over again, but it never sticks. The black grassroots have expressed a number of opinions about the suspension of these SNAP EBT benefits, and the reactions have ranged from outrage at impoverished people having the rug pulled out from under them to people who have been genuinely glad at the ceasing of what they see as the government subsidizing dysfunction in the black community. I can see the merit in both positions, though admittedly I lean a hell of a lot harder toward the latter than the former. And at the threat of sounding harsh, although both positions are valid, they're not equally valid. There's a reality here. The white man who has the power to give you everything also has the power to take everything away. People who the government has living hand to mouth, these are individuals who are never going to rise up against that system because they become dependent on it. The lesson is that it's a mistake for black people to think that they can get anything from this system of white supremacy without having some sort of influence over it. That means power. Too many black people have been looking for a comfortable place under white supremacy, and we keep telling you the only safe place is fighting it. Just think that it's very interesting that although Cardi B made it a point to say that she was specifying her remarks about white people in general and white Republicans in specific who had voted for Trump, those white right-wingers, they were the ones trying to lead the charge to say, oh, she's talking about her fans. Yeah, because everybody knows that those good white folks up in coal country just love them some Cardi B, right? No, what it comes down to is there's a reality that they are all too aware of, which is the majority of these public benefit beneficiaries happen to be white. And instead of them saying, you know what, Cardi B, we don't like her music, hell, we don't even like her, but you know what, she's got a point. You got those folk up in coal country, it's time for some self-reliance. After all, she had basically just summarized what the white right message had been from conservative media for the last 50 years. Except what they didn't like was who she was pointing that message at. So are these people on the white right really truly interested in reducing dependency on government? Or are they just using it as yet another Trojan horse to hide in and say, well, we're talking about this program, but we really mean black people. And if there were no black people on public assistance, you better believe they would be pointing at or making up something else. We don't need any bad actors muddying the waters on this one. There's more than enough wrong with Cardi B without having to make things up. And that doesn't make her right, by the way. She's a slimy ex-stripper turned rapper thought, and that's nothing to be proud of. But the people who brought you this controversy, they knew exactly what they were doing. And they're also fully aware that when it comes to the black grassroots, there's nobody over here who's trying to do Cardi B any kind of favors. And as for the EBT SNAP-ocalypse, let this serve as a lesson to black people who happen to be on those programs. These things are not a leg up. They're not help. These are traps. And both political parties have been making full use of it. One side tries to leverage votes by the doling out of these benefits, and the other side runs the corporations that make money that is given to them in the form of these benefits. Where do you think all that money winds up at when it actually gets paid out to people? It goes to those corporations, and not just the grocery stores, but also to the banks who are the ones who actually put out the cards that are used by these people. Perhaps the most sophisticated of the evil genius of Europe is the idea that they were able to take their mendacity and monetize it. Whatever evil they were doing, they always wanted to make sure that they had a way that they could make a buck off of it. That way, it would be self-perpetuating and self-reinforcing too. The only true hedge against things like this is group economics. A people who relearn the principles of relying on one another will have an internal economy that can weather these storms. So long as you're relying on white power, you'll never rely on black people. And that's why these programs are traps for us. For those from the dominant society, they're always going to make sure that there's all kinds of ladders and all kinds of help for them. There's no reason for them to be on public assistance at all. They got all the help in the world. But for black folks, they're like, nah, basically it's either going to be the streets or this. But nothing happens in a vacuum under white supremacy. These programs have had a deleterious effect on the community because they sow the seeds of dysfunction. The biggest reason we have so many backstabbers, turncoats, and sellouts, and people who do things to disrupt the community is because they understand they can do all this dirt against us, but still be able to eat the next day, either because a white corporation's feeding them or because a white government program is. And this is how they get loyalty. And none of these people can claim that, well, the problem happens to be the rules that the black grassroots wants. Give me a break. The rules of white supremacy are far harsher than anything the black grassroots could demand. The problem happens to be that there are folks who don't want to have any rules at all. And white power for a minute seems like it's going along with that, but it never does for long. These programs are just another form of control, a leash, because no dog bites the hand that feeds them. And it also indoctrinates black children to think of white power as their benefactor instead of their oppressor. This is how you derange the internal politics of an oppressed group. Hate and what appears to be support both occupy the same space, but the balance always leans more toward hate. Any so-called assistance that isn't empowering you isn't assistance at all. It's just repression with a friendly face. Now, that's not a welcome message to those who genuinely need these programs, but the goal isn't to make the best of a bad situation. The goal must always be to get out of that situation. If a job is just over broke, then SNAP and EBT is just above starving. And hood rats and dusty females making videos showing shopping carts full of food on the first of the month, that's meant to appeal to the spiritually lazy and the immature. To make it look like you're getting something for nothing, or worse, like you're winning. As if you can be powerless, but still be eating. That's what they want people to think. Well, white power is showing that the game is theirs, because they've got the ability to pull your card, in this case, EBT card. I won't say that this is a wake-up call for certain people who have become dependent on these things, because I know that's not going to happen. So instead, I'll say that if after this, you still refuse to understand how vulnerable you make yourself, then when these programs do get sharply curtailed or even eliminated, the only thing you'll be eating are your words. Good evening, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Burkett Cochrane, Suleiman Alaji, Brian Walton, Glenda Tice, and Greg Simpson. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.